Happy opening day, everyone. It is a glorious, glorious time to be a basketball fan. Let's talk about basketball. Let's get right into it. The Celtics routed the Knicks in the first game in a historic shooting performance. I want to talk about their offense because, yes, they were just spamming and knocking down threes, but I think the way in which they do it is always so interesting, as the Celtics have been the whole time under Joe Mazzulla. So, like, subscribe, comment. I'm going to try daily or almost daily content for the beginning of the NBA season, starting with this Celtics offense that just ripped the hell out of the ball against the Knicks. First thing we notice, we'll talk about Celtics guard screen more than maybe any team in the NBA. So the Celtics are going to use this to get favorable matchups, and in this case, it flows into a pick and roll, and yeah, this was not a banner defensive performance from the Knicks. Mikal had a weird shooting night, but his screen navigation was a problem all night. And they try it in like mid drop with Cat just sitting there. Jason Tatum punishes the under. Like, if Jason Tatum's pull up is falling like this, which it absolutely is, and again we see this paint packing Tom Thibodeau defense that loves to position its players at the corners and the elbows. This is what Thibodeau does, and the Celtics will beat that. One, Towns isn't the kind of player to like explosively close out in short distances, so he's sagging off a little bit out to sit in the gaps like Tibbs wants, but they punish that with the quick trigger three. The Celtics, just decisiveness and willing to fire in this 5-out system is always so impressive, and you know, there's enough interior scoring to keep it balanced, and the threat of that interior scoring is big. Again, we see Tatum as the screener this time. The Knicks elect to, it looks like they just like do a bad hedge. They try hedging, which I just don't think is that great usually these days. And Tibbs likes to hedge, but that's not a good hedge. You don't knock Derek White off of his path at all, and then Mikal can't recover. Tatum scores, and the Knicks' rim protection is a notable problem, I think. I'm not going to overreact like the shooting or whatever. Like, the Knicks are going to be fine, but their lack of paint defense, like OG being their primary rim protector, and like OG is a good rim protector for like an on-ball defensive wing. We talked about him in the top 25 defender series, but you don't want him being like your primary paint defender. And like they had to play Jericho Sims for a lot of minutes, and he was their first guy off the bench, which is just tells you the state of injuries on this roster basically. But Tatum's playmaking, look at this window he zips this pass into to Cornette. He really had like one of the games of his life in this one. And his playmaking was a big reason why. He had a couple awesome passes, which we will get to at some point. The Celtics offense, just so beautiful. They run Spain pick and roll, but you don't really need to worry about all that Spain shit if they're just going to sag off in deep drop. And again, we see Mikal totally dying on this screen. This system, right, when you're playing deeper in drop, especially with the back screens, you've got to be able to really fight over and pressure the ball handler, but Tatum walks into a wide open pull-up three, and turns out it was just going to end up being one of those nights for Jason Tatum where everything seemed like it was going to fall. And this was a play I loved. They got so many chances on offensive rebounds. Like, offensive rebounds killed the Knicks in this game, but I even love the play developing before. Tatum, great pass low. Drew, who tries to lob to Cornette. It's just a little bit off, and Drew ends up finishing the play. But offensive rebounds killed the Knicks as well, because the Celtics were just kicking them out for wide open threes. And the Celtics, yeah, they had some moments where they were shooting and like making crazy tough shots, but it was mostly open shots. Like, it felt like cheating, and people were complaining a lot. You know, they say it's boring. I personally really enjoy it because I think the level of decision making and execution is crazy. But again, we see the Knicks switch this pick and roll with Cat instead because drop wasn't working earlier in the quarter. But then Deuce has to come double really aggressively. Cam Payne doesn't recognize this pass is coming, and that's just a wide open three for Pritchard. So it was definitely a lot of miscommunications on New York's part. But I think it is also just the Celtics' incredible offensive principles. And this, to me, is another example of something the Celtics do so well, which is manipulate the positioning of the Knicks' weak side defenders. So if the Celtics just run like a straight play, they can, maybe expect Deuce to be on the weak side, or maybe Josh Hart or something like that. But because they position Derek White in the dunker spot, right? Derek White's in the dunker spot, and Deuce McBride has to protect the rim. So it's Deuce McBride, and then they have Peyton Pritchard's man, Jalen Brunson, trying to protect the rim. Like, they hunted Brunson pretty much all game. He's just not equipped to defend at the level that he needs to against this Celtics team. Like, it really People were tweeting that it reminded him of like Isaiah Thomas getting hunted on when he was on the Celtics. And I don't know if it's that extreme, but there's definitely plenty to exploit. And this is another one of Tatum's just phenomenal passes where he whips this ball with his left hand on a roped fucking Derek White there. Just a beautiful play. Great spacing as well. Always very purposeful. These like kind of strong side 4x1 sets that the Celtics do are really good at being able to like manipulate a single help defender, like with Pritchard cutting on the back line. And yeah, when Derek White's just gonna rip the three off of the catch like that, none of that extra stuff really matters. It's, you know, the shot goes in and it's beautiful stuff. And I love how they use Derek White as an off-ball mover in this offense too. Like, they'll legit run him like movement three, like sets to get movement threes, runs off this flare screen here, and then comes back here on the pin in. But Tatum just goes to work on this play. And when you have a superstar like Tatum doing superstar Tatum things, even when the defense takes away your easy buttons, that's a word they use in football a lot that I like for basketball too. Like, the Celtics are the best team in the league at pressing easy buttons. They are the peak Shanahan-McVay offense of the National Basketball Association. And when you have a Matthew Stafford or like a fucking, I don't know, Cooper Kupp maybe, or Sean McVay, or I don't know where I'm going with this, but Tatum, you know, switch onto Brunson, easy blow by, and he's finishing strong. Again, note the Knicks' lack of really great rim protection, right? Towns is spaced out guarding Al Horford, so he can't be as much in the paint as he wants, right? He can't help off Al Horford on the strong side corner, but that means you have McHale and Hart and OG, and again, all solid to good rim protectors for wings, but they're wings. You want bigs inside the paint protecting the rim, and that's just not something they have consistently. Another point was the Celtics cross-matching on the defensive end, meaning, you know, having Drew on Cat. That meant Cat started a lot of possessions higher up and guarded the ball earlier than he probably wanted to, right? Cat isn't going to press up hard on Jalen, so Jalen's just going to walk into a wide open pull-up three. And that's a result of the Celtics positioning Drew, or positioning Cat, like where he's not going to be around the basket, or where he's going to be one of the first people guarding back, which I just think is extremely smart and cool to watch. And yeah, when Derek White is ripping threes like this, it is really, really difficult to stop. And why it matters that you have like a big wing handling for the Celtics here is the Knicks defense usually relies on like these heavy dig windows. Brunson isn't wrong here for like studying at Tatum necessarily. That's what they do. But the fact that you have Tatum as the primary ball handler, which means Brunson is guarding the shooter, which normally you'd have a guy like Hart or OG or McHale and Brunson guarding the ball handler in a more traditional defense. And that makes like Brunson really, he's not an effective dig defender. He can't really impact there. Kind of recovers, but Derek White was on an absolute heater today. And just the Celtics, man. Like, I really do think more than like Knicks defense issues, it's just the Celtics offense being a buzzsaw. It really isn't like as much. I think the Knicks defense will probably be fine. They have Thibodeau, and this is the first game of a new group. I'm not stressing about the Knicks defense long term, but in this game, again, just like the drop coverage getting cooked again by a pick and pop. Cat just isn't the kind of player who can cover enough ground in the short area quickness to do that. They really hunted him and Brunson. It was kind of wild to see the Celtics just go at those guys pretty much all night. And the Celtics' connective passing, and like I said, the overall decision making on this team and the way that they all process the floor, and it really does seem like they're the most in sync I've ever really seen of an offense like this, where Tatum gets doubled, Derek White cuts to the middle to give him an outlet, Josh Hart of course has to help, and because Drew is spaced all the way to the opposite corner on Brunson, again, Brunson has to run the whole length of the court, and it actually does a pretty good job, gets over to Brown, but Jaylen Brown ends up just making the three there. And then I think is this the last clip or the second to last clip? Anyways, more Derek White as a screener. We talked about using the guard screens. I think we had another one of these earlier, but they're going to want to switch these with White as the ball handler. That's usually the disadvantage of setting a screen with a non-big, right? Is you can just switch it because that basically takes away the screen. But Celtics know that's coming. Derek White's just gonna slip before he even makes contact, or makes light contact. He slips right into the middle, finishes the floater. Like the fact that one of your best guards can also do stuff like that is, man, the Celtics just have an embarrassment of riches on the basketball court. It's really gross. And this was something I was alluding to earlier, like legit movement three, like sets to get Derek White movement jumper. This is how far we've come with Derek White. He's not just catching off the dribble and creating for himself off the bounce. He's running this kind of double pin down action and catching. And this was even one of Mikhail's maybe better defensive plays right here, where he actually recognized quickly, dipped around the screen, and got his hand in the vicinity. But Derek White was just having one of those games, and as was the Celtics offense. The fourth quarter was hilarious. They didn't get the 3-point record, but there's like no point even talking about the fourth quarter offense. I think the Celtics offense, man, like, they're not going to shoot this well from three every game, but we saw them do this last year, and this is the same team continuing to work together and, you know, expand on their principles and get more comfortable in what they do. Jaylen Brown still looks awesome and so much improved from the player he was 2 years ago. And they don't even have Porzingis, man. The Celtics are really scary. And I really, really appreciate their offense. And I hope some of you do as well, because I know it is polarizing. But